Thank you for joining us today. We're going to go over some information about ImageNet's Procure to Pay package, which we've built on the Laserfish foundational platform. First, about Laserfish and accounts payable. As a platform, this product can be used in many different areas of your organization. It can be leveraged across areas of manufacturing, government, customer-facing interactions through e-forms, internal interactions through similar e-forms, system integrations. It's really a scalable solution that content repository that can be used in almost every facet of your business to help shore up the shortcomings of your other ancillary systems or where you're lacking a system to help with certain processes. In accounts payable specifically, Laserfish really has a main focus on accounts invoices and invoice processing, really accelerating the time it takes to both intake and review your invoices, route them for approval, creating an audit trail of those approval steps, and then going through payment as well by keying that data into your accounting system and tracking where it's at in terms of receivers that may be involved from your warehouse or from the original purchaser within your organization. By leveraging this system to automate that through forms interactions, it becomes a very user-friendly experience for your staff. It becomes a user-friendly experience even for things like outside parties such as vendor onboarding. It does help with in compliance in terms of keeping your invoice and payment records safe, keeping them for the appropriate amount of time, and can deliver a fast return on your investment as it's having an impact on labor across your entire organization, labor being traditionally one of the most expensive facets of any business. So by leveraging something like Laserfish to help focus on accounts payable or the entire procure to payment process, this can really help with that dramatically in lowering your costs. Now, Procure to Pay as a package is a deployable solution built on the Laserfish Foundation, as we've said. So the internal departments, external partners, they all rotate and revolve around accounting as a whole, which is why accounting is a fantastic place to start. And by deploying one of these preset packages in a more simplistic way, it gives you rapid deployment with an immediate return on that investment that can help fund further development of the system, both within accounting as well as outside of the other areas we've discussed before. Within the procure to pay solution, we have focused on a few key areas. One is vendor onboarding and management. Another is going to be the purchase order review, approval, and creation process. So you may have a purchase requisition package in place. If you do, you don't need to leverage this one. But if you do not, or if it's cumbersome or it's not used often, then you could use this exclusively, or you could use this in concert with your accounting system and let it do the final step in terms of PO reconciliation and PO creation number, things like that. And our system could just help with the routing and review process that is associated with that. Next is going to be invoice intake. So there is an optional add-on of having invoices. If you have less than 800 a month, or if you have more than 800 a month, that would just designate the cost associated. But the ability for it to automatically extract the vendor details, such as the remit address, invoice name, number, etc., match that to your vendor list based on that remit address, and remove all that manual keying that staff would have to do. It can also help automate and digitize the approval and review process that your managers may go through when they need to review an invoice and potentially even code an invoice to make sure that it's allocated to their correct budgets. Records management, always a foundational piece when it comes to Laserfish platform. Introducing that into your accounting system, it just helps return a lot of time back to you, not only in dealing with yourselves, your internal staff, but the ability for you to interact with your vendors as well and to be able to look up and query against data in terms of your expenditures that have taken place with them over time. And lastly, as discussed, this is built on the Laserfish cloud platform, really providing a lot of room for you to do development and expansion across your whole enterprise. The last note before we actually go into a demonstration of the application would be just a reminder that we're not trying to create any new type of work. We're really trying to take the work that you're already doing and you're already paying for and consolidate that down and remove a lot of that work about work, which according to most studies have taken up to about 60% on average of most employees' times across all industries. That's 2/3 nearly of the work week for most of your labor force that's wasted. Our goal is to try and give half of that back or a third of that work week back, which can dramatically increase the output of your labor force. Now we'll go ahead and step into a demonstration. On the screen, you should now see the dashboard for Laserfish Cloud's environment. As you can see, this gives a very simple area for you to have your staff engage with the system and see common activities, high priority tasks, recent documents, all the things they need to see and look at their environment to know what's going on and have a quick view and a kind of a command center view of what's going on in their environment. They can also view all the documents and have certain customized boxes here that take them as shortcuts to different areas of the folder structure. So for example, the incoming and process, the invoice management side here, or a specific look into invoices, purchase orders, the general file room, in process invoices, et cetera, are all listed here. And they could even launch a search from the repository or go ahead and launch a pre-saved search, an invoice or PO specific search from here as well. Now, task management gives you a place to look and see what tasks are assigned to you, what unassigned tasks are available to you, and that's part of their process as well. And then lastly, submitting forms. The submit forms action lets them see all the processes they could be kicking off or starting off as part of this. You'll see in the P2P package, there's three that are included. There's an order request, a purchase order request form and process. There's a vendor onboarding packet. There's also a maintenance form that lets you manage your vendor list, manage your approval list, department names. All that stuff is managed from one simple form that only certain users would have access to. We'll go ahead and start, since it's a procure to pay solution, by walking through the purchase order request process. And we'll start that by going through and clicking on that form. And you can see here's a list of the departments that you would customize. It's got my name in here. And then I can go ahead and select who the approver is based on my preset approver list. I'll pick my name for this example. And let's just say we need a new 3D printer for custom parts testing. And then on the supplier list, this is actually going to pull from a vendor list that we can either manage or sync off of your existing vendor list. And so I can pick that, and because it's doing that lookup, it can go ahead and pull out our supplier details here. Had that not been an available vendor list item, the vendor where I want to work with, you can see here we've even got a link to the vendor onboarding form. If I click on this as an internal employee, I could go ahead and start to fill this out, which for the sake of time has been populated here for us. So you can see I've got my legal entity name, account terms, things like that. This could also be set up optionally as an external facing form that you could send to the vendor to allow them to go ahead and complete this and push that work further upstream. Corporation entity ownership type, for example, acceptable forms of payment. So I could say we accept ACH and give banking details here. I could say we accept credit cards. It's going to ask if we have any convenience fees, for example, there. And then once an upload of a W-9 and potentially an upload of a certificate of insurance as well. Once that's all been done, I can go ahead and type my name in here and just sign that as the vendor, hit submit, and that process is done. And then that name would actually be added to that vendor list once it's gone through an approval process and has been reviewed and accepted by the accounting staff as part of the vendor list now. It would add to the supplier list here. Continuing on with this example though, I'm going to go ahead and add some items in and say I want to get the 3D 3000 3200 printer. And it's going to have, let's go ahead and get two of them so we have a backup. And that's going to be $15,123.25. So as you can see, we even do math functions here. They could add more items as they need. By doing the math functions, it's less time for the end user as well as less time for issues to occur. I could put shipping in there to complete this. As the employee requesting this, I could just go ahead and type my name, or I could draw it in there as well if I'm using my mobile app or something like that, sign it, and hit submit. So once that's been submitted, it's going to go through its own approval process now. That involves going to my manager first for approval that I selected there. Once that has been done, then it would also go through steps with accounting. And we'll walk through those processes very briefly here today. So as we talked about, on the home screen, I can see any tasks that I have in terms of urgent tasks, net new tasks, things like that that are listed here. And then also from the task screen, I can see a little bit more detail as well. So we'll go ahead and pick that task up that we just did for manager approval. I can look at this, it's been assigned to me already. So I can see the details that were entered by my employee in my department, and I can just simply approve it, reject it, or add comments. For the sake of this, we'll go ahead and approve it. And then it's going to go to the accounting team as well. So accounting is going to look at that to create a purchase order. And that's where they might review this and create this purchase request in a different system, in the accounting system, to complement that if needed. Or they could just be reviewing it to make sure that everything's been done appropriately here. And once they've approved it or created another system, they could have entered the purchase order that was generated. Or in this case, where they don't have a system like that, it will actually go ahead and create the purchase order and assign the next number in the purchase order queue. At this point, emails would have been sent out to alert the original requester and send them a copy of the purchase order as well to keep them in the loop. That is an example of the procurement step in this system. On to the invoice reconciliation phase. So as we talked about, invoices can be brought into the system in several ways. It can be brought in by me simply coming to this incoming folder and dragging and dropping invoices in. It can be set up to monitor a hot folder where you're scanning from a copier, for example, to a hot folder and pulling those in, or it can be set up to monitor an email inbox and automatically pull attachments in. That way you can push your vendors to utilize that and completely remove the need for manual review and pulling in and dragging and dropping of invoices entirely. And you can also, of course, scan directly into a system like this. Now, in the task section, this is where we would see team tasks that have not been assigned. So there is a AP review step here looking at MakerBot invoice is what it looks like based on the name. So AP review is just where we would have a chance to come in and look. Now, this is an optional piece depending on the volume that you have. If you have enough volume to warrant the cost, we can go ahead and add the automated invoice extraction. So as you can see here, I have not typed in any details, but it has gone ahead and extracted and pulled out the invoice date, the vendor name, the vendor ID number in our vendor list, the invoice number, the PO number that was listed, and the amount of this invoice. As an AP staff member, I could simply assign this to myself. I'm going to go ahead and work it. I can see the invoice here. I can interact with it. I can even do things like highlight the important pieces of information that I want someone to take note of, or I could potentially redact out private information that we don't want listed for general users to be able to see later. Once I've looked at this and made my decision, in this example, I'm going to go ahead and say, even though there was a PO, I do want the approver to actually get on this and check it because I don't have the coding properly done or the PO amount's too different. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this to be selected and sent to an approver for review. Once it's sent to that approver for review, it's going to go to their assigned tasks and become a work for them to do. At that point, they're going to be able to do things like do the coding of the invoice and make sure that we reconcile that as appropriately needed. You can see under my tasks as that original person that requested this invoice, it's been sent to me for approval. I'm going to go ahead and select that now, being that manager, and I'm going to see that's already been assigned to me. I can go ahead and enlarge my screen and see very easily the action history here, what it's gone through. I can see the document itself and where someone highlighted that invoice number to make sure and draw that out for me. And in this example, I want to go ahead and allocate the funds as well because it does not have a PO that allocated those funds fully. So I could send this back to AP with notes. Maybe it's not for me. Maybe I don't want to approve it, something like that. In this example, we'll go ahead and approve it and walk through. So notice after selecting approve, I have the ability to select things like division, department. Again, these are customized to your organization's needs. Let's say this is my department, the GL code. This could be the GL numbers, or it could be a description that's more native to someone just being able to read and understand. And then of course, I can go ahead and put in whatever I want here for the amount. Now, if I had just put a lesser amount, it's not going to let me submit this because I have not allocated all the funds as of yet. So it does make sure that all funds are allocated before that approver comes through. This can also be done at the AP step if you don't want your managers or your original requesters being responsible for the coding that takes place. Or it may just need to happen in your accounting system. These are all options that can be turned on or off based on the needs of your organization. So once it's been reviewed and approved, I can go ahead and mark that as complete. As you can see, I can get a snapshot view as an accounting person as well to see where things are in process, where things are in terms of invoice purchase order history. So we can see that there's some documents that are in process still, MakerBot being one of those that came in today and is still being worked through the process. Again, tasks can be managed by looking at unassigned tasks, and I can see that here's an approved invoice ready for payment. As a part of the AP team, I can assign that to myself. This is when I would go ahead and open up my accounting system. This can be done either by me manually keying this into the accounting system and entering that journal entry or payment number here, It could be done also by having it send the accountant on the end of the day or the week a batch CSV file of all the invoices that have been approved so they could do a very easy upload into your accounting system. So once that payment detail has been placed in here, we can go ahead and mark this as payment complete. And then it's going to go ahead and complete the transaction and the life cycle of the invoice. By coming here to this area, we can see there's no longer that piece of the imaging there. We can see under invoices, there's a 2025 folder. If I click on that, it's going to take me straight to the repository view. And I can see here in January is the invoice that was approved. These are the basic steps that help manage your invoice and procurement lifecycle for your accounting department. Again, it's meant to be a complement to your existing systems, your existing accounting system. Some of these features may not relate directly to what you're looking for, and these can be turned on or off, such as external forms availability for vendors, such as purchase request processing and creation. Maybe it does just the approval and routing. Maybe you don't need any of that. So talk to your ImageNet account representative about what you're looking for, and they can use our pricing calculator to provide you with a very quick price and contracts for review. Typically, a system like this can be deployed within 1 to 2 weeks, if not less, once you've answered the questions that we have for your configuration specifics. Thank you very much, and for any other information, please visit our website at www.imagenet.com.